We are spiritual beings. So we are more spiritual than we are looking at this table
Time out
here.
for 1 second. When you say that, to make it very simple for people that are religious or don't want anything to do with spirituality, that just to me means we're connected.
Right.
And if I bash you, I'm bashing myself.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to get more and more depressed and more anxiety ridden and more problems are going to start happening. If I keep pointing the finger and saying all these people are doing bad things, I'm going to get, and I'm literally physiologically, I think there's a mechanism where it goes into neuro, endo, immuno, and it starts making weird hormones or something happens to
Absolutely.
you. And you get depressed.
Yes. And you would
Then
understand.
you'll get angry because you don't know it's even affecting you.
happening.
Welcome, everybody. Today, we have an amazing guest. This is Dr. Dana Show, and her name is Dr. Irma Diaz. And what really was something I was amazed about with Irma is that she has a degree as a rabbi and a minister. So put them together, and what do you get? Well, we're going to find out in a few minutes, but it's got to be something really good. So Irma has done a lot of work. She's worked in the House of Representatives. She's also been on TV multiple times. She has helped many people through very hard times with her type of counseling. And I'm so blessed that Irma is actually going to be able to be part of my practice soon. And she's given some free treatments for the fire victims of the California fires. So without any more ado, I'd like to introduce Irma. Walk us through a typical patient and your relationship with patients and how you would work with them through maybe bereavement or through the fires in LA. Let's pick the fires in LA. What's happening? I mean, people have no house, they have nothing, and I couldn't even fathom that. One woman was crying, I don't have anywhere to go back to. That hit home to me.
Right, absolutely.
Where would I go? I'm completely uprooted.
Yeah.
So how would they come in? Like, what are they? Probably a general consensus among them, what they're portraying, the majority. How would you work with them?
Just like I mentioned to you earlier, I did a program with a person that lost their home and gave her the opportunity to share what exactly happened for her and her family, which was devastating. And now her home is ashes. And this was the Altadena, California area. And so my approach to her was letting her talk first, because I really believe that, and everyone knows that, everybody needs
Healing. It's cathartic.
Yeah. And so she was able to talk and share her story and what happened with her children and all of that. If you want to call it an MO, and I say that respectfully, is to allow people to be who they are and to validate them in their world, in who they are. And I'm not saying that other counselors don't do that. I'm just saying that it's very important for me, I call it reading the room, to understand where the person's from. For example, if that person that I had on my program talking about the losing their home believed a certain way, I would bring in certain things in the conversation that I know will hit home with her. Somebody else that doesn't want to hear, for example, about God, I won't talk about God. Sure. I may say that I'm a person of faith, but I won't impose that.
It might push them, or that might not help them understand or look inside and find out what's going on with them.
But I think right now it's a blanket need in terms of the fire victims. It's a blanket need. I think they need help from every crevice of society, and I think that that humanity has to be there. They have to allow humanity to help them.
Well, we certainly need to pull people from LA, from all walks of life, and anywhere in the world, but especially I think in California, to pull them together.
Yeah.
As horrific as this is, I think it can. The silver lining would be to people work together and overcome any bias or any judgment of their different race, whatever they're judging. Right. Because there's so much of that, and the anger. Right. Fuel.
Yeah.
I think we can
yeah. And to address the other part of your question, just generally speaking, in counseling, it's very important to me, and I've done this, and I say this not braggadociously, but very successfully, is being able to bring people from all walks of life in one room and allowing them to be able, as a group session, to be able to talk, especially like instances like loss, where one person may be Jewish and believe certain things, and then another person Catholic and may believe certain things, but I'm able to bring into the conversation spirituality without identifying the portal, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds really awesome.
I feel very comfortable doing that, and I find that people really bond and they realize these people, they're from different walks of
Yeah.
life, but they resonate with my pain.
Well, they see they're all the same. There's not that much difference here. We all
Exactly.
feel the same pain.
Exactly.
Maybe a little differently, but we're all going through it. And
Yes.
why shouldn't we work together and
Yeah.
help each other?
Absolutely.
Well, that's always been practically wiped off the face of the earth in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen very
Yeah.
often. We're seeing more and more of it come out, I think. But there's another thing you talked about when you worked with the government and you were the coach program. Can you tell me about that and what you were doing in that? It's very interesting.
So I'm still doing that. And in fact, I'm coming up on doing a panel next week or 2 weeks. In any case, this is a coach program with the House of Representatives.
What does it mean, a coach program?
It is a department within the House of Representatives that handles coaching the staff members and the chiefs of staff if they need it or if they want to participate, but it's usually staff, and of the members of Congress that need coaching in different areas. One of the areas that I've been called upon to address is deflecting violent callers and threats and things like that that they have to endure. And with that comes a lot of trauma. So I talk with them about, being trauma informed. I talk with them about being able to understand what they're feeling and how to deal with it.
Why are they getting calls like this? And you're talking about the congressmen or the senators, or?
I mean, it's the Hill, period, but I'm dealing with the House. And when I come and I sit as a panelist and I'm talking with them, I usually give a presentation. I usually prepare a PowerPoint and, so that they can take that PowerPoint with them. But it's usually talking about how to deal with it. And a lot of times this impacts people even physically. To be threatened. And,
right, it can.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The cortisol.
And so, and so I talk to them about mindfulness, about different things, but also about how to dialogue with these people to try to deflect it, the problem. And so I've been called on, as health and mental health liaison for Congresswoman Napolitano, doing that, and recently she retired. I'm still being asked to be a panelist for the House coach program. So that also adds to my comfort level with dealing with different situations, different people from different walks.
Yeah, very diverse, of course. Yeah,
very
that's awesome.
diverse.
Nice.
And very interesting.
Okay.
Very, very gratifying, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what did you do with Dr. Phil? You were on the show with him, or?
That was mental health for children.
Okay.
It had to do with the children that were being impacted by the pandemic, being pulled out of school, all of that.
Staying home all the time.
Yeah, and some of them didn't have computers.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't go. So a lot of things happened there. So it was Dr. Phil, and they asked me to moderate it. It was Dr. Phil and Congresswoman Grace Napolitano and Congressman John Katko from New York. And so I moderated the program. Dr. Luis Garcia was also on. And it was a program with Dr. Phil. And it was to talk about the children and the impact on family, the family unit, with everything that took place. So that was what that was about. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you the big question. We're going to discuss this for the next hour, okay? What do you think is the most important aspect hurting Americans from coming together and overcoming the huge amounts of hate and judgment right now? Do you have a take on that, maybe spiritually or?
I really believe, number one, ego is a big problem. Globally,
Ego's been around for 10,000 years.
Correct. But along with that ego comes indoctrination and how that ego is fed through indoctrination.
And you think that's like media?
I think it's
Politics,
media. I think it's politics. I think it's pulpits. I think, I want to be careful.
So kind of using the race card, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, everything. They'll you run the gamut. It's people that are being fed, egos that are being fed, and it's almost like people are walking around hypnotized. And I say this with all due respect. I'm not saying that I'm not one that maybe has fallen into some of that, but it happens. And I think that all over the world, that people are well, I'm going to talk about our nation and say, people are at a certain place where if you don't believe a certain way, you're this, you're that. If you don't believe this way, you're this, you're that. Instead of being able to come together and coexist and be in peace.
Okay. Do you see that people who are, say, I don't know, I guess baby boomers and whatever the generation is before baby boomers, do you see that in those people? Or do you see it more like the 20 to 40-year-olds that haven't had, what I'm trying to get at is, they haven't seen the Vietnam War, they haven't had all the information, even from the Second World War and things when we were younger,
Right.
they haven't sang the songs that we would sing in our, not just pledge allegiance to the flag, which we would do every day, but to sing those amazing songs. At least I think they are the one, like Our Country 'Tis of Thee. Yeah, they give you goosebumps, right? And that, to me, when we have that, and it was when at the most recent, when Trump became president, the woman sang the song without any music. And it was very interesting, because that's the same song that we would sing every assembly in my grade school.
Aw.
And that's America to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not one that has a big ego. I mean, I've done a lot of spiritual work for a lot of years. But when I heard that, I wasn't empowered to be like, oh yeah, we got to take back. No, it was just like, it was powerful tears. It was just like, wow,
Yeah.
that should be help to heal everybody. But
Yeah.
but that's being bashed, a lot of that now. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's being bad. Yeah, so it's all over. But I do think that you brought up a very good point, Dr. Churchill, because there are different ages and different groups within those ages that think different. And so we have all this mixture of what things should be. But just speaking about our country alone, it's so much division, and it's different thoughts and what is accepted and what is not accepted, and what you do if somebody doesn't accept it. You know, let's get rid of them. Like, I was just listening to the anti-Semitism in Australia and what just happened with the daycare center, that they bombed the daycare center.
In Australia?
Yeah.
But there's no people there that would do that.
Yeah, it just,
Why would
well, I didn't think so either, but I'm saying these things you hear all over the world that are scattered.
So kids got killed?
Yeah, well, no, the kids weren't there.
Oh, thank goodness.
Thank God.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was happening. But the problem is that everybody is unable to accept. Like, if you said to me, I am a Buddhist, my response would be, I love the philosophy. It's beautiful, and I'm not going to criticize that, and I'm not going to try to impose or think that you're not who you are just because you don't believe like me.
Right,
That is a problem, and it's a problem in every age group, but the responses are all different, but some of them are so hateful, the way that we respond.
Well, how do we solve that problem? That's what.
Well, see, here's the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter is that we are spiritual beings. So we are more spiritual than we are looking at this table
Time out
here.
for 1 second. When you say that, to make it very simple for people that are religious or don't want anything to do with spirituality, that just to me means we're connected.
Right.
And if I bash you, I'm bashing myself.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to get more and more depressed and more anxiety ridden, and more problems are going to start happening. If I keep pointing the finger and saying all these people are doing bad things, I'm going to get, and literally physiologically, I think there's a mechanism where it goes into neuro, endo, immuno, and it starts making weird hormones, or something happens to you.
Absolutely.
And you get depressed.
Yes. And you would
Then
understand
you get angry because you don't know that's even
what's
affecting
happening to you.
I mean, we practice Falun Gong, and we always say that if we have to look inside, every time my heart is moved by anything, even the littlest bit, so what that would mean, like fear usually, which I understand, but it could be greed, it could be lust, it could be any of these things, you need to look inside and say, what's going on with that? What's the story? What's the scenario? Can I think back? Almost like you're doing a homeopathic intake on yourself, maybe 5-10 times a day.
Right.
And we don't always do it that much, but you need to look inside. Why is that happening? Because if you're pointing your outside, it'll destroy you, actually.
Right. We're spiritual beings, more than we are physical beings. We're enclosed in this tent. And I don't mean to get too deep, but
No, there's a skin on top of a soul. A lot of people get that now.
top of soul. And the thing with the soul, which in my studies, the thing with the soul is that you can have an 80-year-old person that has the soul of an infant because they've never developed that. Then you can have someone like yourself, right? Yeah, you can have someone like yourself that you're very spiritual, you've worked on your spirituality, you've developed your soul to the best of your ability. And so you could have the soul of one that is 80, like an old soul.
Or maybe infinite.
Yeah, because you've developed it. So we have all these different ages and people that, the spiritual is real, but they can't tap into it the same way because their soul is just.
I think a lot of people get glimpses of this, whether it's a feeling or they see an apparition or they see something that isn't of this dimension, because as I understand, there are other dimensions. I mean, and
Right.
and they just like, no, that either that didn't happen, or I can't tell anybody that. They just brush it off. So there's none. And I think this wouldn't be 100 years ago. It wouldn't be so strict. Like,
Right.
I can't talk about this to anybody, and maybe commune with you with some of these beautiful things that have happened with me, so we bond together.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
don't see that happening much.
No, it
Right?
doesn't.
Enough.
It's because if you think different, you can't bond. So if you say something to me and I don't quite, I don't know, but can I still bond with you? Absolutely, I can, because I'm one with you. But I can't if I have this thing in me that says I can't accept.
Wall, this wall.
I can't accept.
So what we're really talking about, a lot of this is, do you have the wherewithal, do you have the functionality to break out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
Which means you can say certain things that may come back at you
Right.
and say you're no good, and it doesn't really bother you.
Yeah.
This is huge. If you can do that, and I think those are the entrepreneurs in the world that have, well, they call it thick skin or whatever, but people who've been able to break out of their comfort zones and do their visions, no matter what anybody told them. You can't do it. You this and that. And I had one guy, I interviewed him on the TV show, and a friend of his said, just buy a one-way plane ticket to Miami and come down here. And he was a model, and this guy was just starting to take pictures of models. But he really didn't have a big following yet. He wasn't doing, now he's doing A-list, he's doing musicians, he's really pretty famous, and he did it. He did it. Like, even I don't think I could have done that back in the day. Mm-hmm. Although I did go to Europe with a round trip ticket, and it was a 3-month, and I only had like $500 on me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I did kind of break out of my comfort zone, but mine wasn't like, it was blind faith. It wasn't real faith back then. But this guy was very interesting, and he went there, and he got there, and the model said, okay, you have this whole house on South Beach. It's like a duplex. It's the most beautiful thing, right? There's only one thing you need to do. You need to take pictures of 4 models every single day, and they'll each pay you $100. And he's like, well, the guy made it like that's what the penance you have to pay. He goes, that's what I want. That's perfect. And because of that, he got to meet all these different models in Miami. He got to be the #1 photographer there. Then Vogue started looking at him, and just like, because of his faith or breaking out of your comfort zone, I think those two kind of are synonymous.
Yeah, and following the leading.
Do you think that too?
Yeah, if I could share a concept real quick. I won't take long.
No, please do.
There is a belief in Judaism, and I'm going to say it, I'm not going to say it appropriately with the details because it'll take too long, but I'm just going to say the concept, okay? So when, depending on your belief, when you were created in your mother's womb, you were created and you had to be in his presence or the universe's presence.
Who's his?
Whatever you believe, God or the universe, okay? I know how I believe, but for whoever's listening today, you are in your creator's presence because you are being formed, right? You're in your mother's womb. So the belief is that because you're in the presence of God or the universe or whatever you want to call it, that you know everything. Okay, follow me. So you know everything. Everything's downloaded. Okay, Dana Churchill, you're going to be A, B, C. This is what you're going to do in life. You're going to touch lives. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. Mm-hmm. And then you go to your mother's womb. You're born. You take your first breath and you forget it all. The reason you forget it is so you can remember it. Mm-hmm. You remember it on your way. So all of a sudden, you're in Europe with $500. You remember you're supposed to do something. Mm. You don't know why. You can't put your finger on it. Right. But you remember, you know what? I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to have Churchill, the Churchill Center. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to touch lives. I'm supposed to help. I'm supposed to do all this. Right. It comes to you, and you don't know. Some people think it's their idea. They're like we're like computers. It was downloaded. Because when we were created, we knew it all. You can't be in the presence of the Almighty and not know it all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Whether you want to call the Almighty the universe. I know there's different beliefs.
That's fine.
So all of a sudden, you walk into and you know this is what I'm supposed to do. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Intuition is remembering
but it's,
what you're supposed to do, your mission in life.
When you, way back. But you forget it on purpose because if he didn't allow us, or if the universe didn't allow us to forget it, right? We wouldn't have a path because we'd know it.
Well, I think, but the path is cultivation, though, because you have karma, you have a lot of stuff you need to pay back, I mean, this is what I've learned through Falun Gong, through Master Lee's teachings, and you have to get rid of this karma. So that's why you're on the path. And as you're going through the path, it's not always going to be easy. Actually, it'll be very hard many times. You're going to go through a lot of miseries, especially on this earth here. That's what we're here for.
Out of your comfort zone.
Completely out. I mean, some of it's completely out of your, you don't even try to be out of your comfort zone. It's just like your relative died or your wife divorces you. I mean,
but see the similarities?
And then you have to go through that. Now, how do you go through it? And what do you become after? Do you keep moving up? Or do you get so depressed you commit suicide? You know, where do you keep on the path? Hopefully you stay on that path.
Right.
Because I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, but you see the similarities.
What?
The similarities. You're talking about one belief. I'm talking about Judaism.
Well, I'm trying to match them up to see the same. Well, not the same, but the
it's
parallel.
very
How
similar.
they parallel.
Yeah, very similar. You know, so with me, all of a sudden I know, but I can't explain it, that I'm supposed to touch lives. I'm supposed to do certain things. I'm supposed to help people, and you know, however I have to do it, I have to do it. Right? I know it's in there, but I can't explain. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. And so I believe, you know, for example, today, the people that will be listening to this podcast, there's many people that may be stirring in their heart about struggling or stirring and or, you know, with what they're supposed to do next or a decision they have to make. But it's all in there. All it has to do is they just have to bring it up, you know, and...
I want to say something to that because it might help some people. When I was going for my hedonistic, I have a TV show, and I mean, I did 2 videos. I have a book on this, my life over COVID. I was really bored, so I got it out. The thoughts started coming in, and they just got out, you know, on the TV, on 2 videos and a book. But one thing that I really realized was that I tried to force my way through life for the first 30 years. And whatever, I was blocking myself off from spirituality, from the things that I was doing, and I understood that. And I used to say, je veux faire exactement comme je veux faire, because I spoke French, and I wouldn't even speak English to you. I would speak French to you to just push your button, just to make it like I'm so famous. I went to France, I could speak French, and I was everything, but it's all egotistical though. And I could see
ego.
that. Yeah, it's judgment, and all these things have been coming out over the years. But it was amazing how that by not having those specific things back then, or having the selfishness, it's all very selfish, incredibly selfish. But for me, I couldn't really find a path, I don't know about the correct path, but the right path for me was there. It was kind of in front of me, but I could never see it until I kind of fell down, and I had like a deep depression, something really like, I'm like, oh my goodness, what do I do now? I don't want to do, like I couldn't do anything. I was really having a hard time back then. I needed someone like you, but you weren't around. But anyway, I got through it, and then that projected me into the path, and I started like asking for help, and I stopped trying to be the center of the universe and I thought I was God. I mean, just by saying je veux faire exactement, that means I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I would literally tell that to the universe as I'm walking to the bus in Princeton, New Jersey, to get on to go to New York City. And I thought, I was in New York City, I had everything made. No, I had just ego. But I thought it was amazing, right? And we did it. I mean, there was fun. There were a lot of clubs and clubbing and all that crazy stuff when you were a kid. But it got me to the point now.
Isn't that something? See, what you do is so important because you bring in, and I'm not just saying this, I really mean this with all my heart. You bring in the fullness of what we need. So while I can sit there and I can, you know, I can bring a group together and build them up and edify them and speak life into their life and into their path and their purpose, you know, you can handle some of that, and then their physical, because what happens, you said it earlier, it impacts your physical, your health. So if you're in a quandary in life and you have struggles, you know, it impacts how you think, your anxiety, the way, you know, and I teach on rational and irrational thinking because it's so important to understand it. Just the power of thought, it's powerful.
Where are your thoughts coming from? That's the first thing I ask people. They're like, what do you, they come from me. No, they don't, not all of them. That's kind of a hard concept, but once you start peeling the layers off, I did a lot of Qigong, a lot of
layers.
Energy, Falun Gong opens up your energy. I didn't know anything about this before I started. I just felt peaceful, my blood pressure went down, I had all these amazing things happen to me. But then there's work to be done too.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't realize, I thought it was just, I just feel good. No, it's not exactly for that. There's more of deeper meaning, and you keep finding those layers.
Right. So so once they come to you, you give them a treatment, It's up to them to follow that treatment and to stay on it. But the fact of the matter is when you're counseling people, when you're working with them, when you're trying to help them, and you move into the spiritual aspect, you have to try to grasp where they're at.
Right. Well, that's the most important thing.
Because if their soul
First
is not
thing
developed.
in medical school, they tell you, treat the patient where they're at.
Exactly.
And that they're talking more about physical things, like you don't
Right.
want to give massive amounts of peptides and great, hormones and everything to somebody who's really debilitated.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be like a hot and cold front hitting, and
Right.
the patient's going to feel worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There's something that keeps coming to my mind, and we need to talk about it.
Okay.
It's a little bit different than what we've been talking about. During the Holocaust, there was a story I read. Okay, I, as a young boy, as a Jewish mom, Christian father, I was asked if I wanted to go do the bar mitzvah. I said no. I think it was just a lot of fear. I hadn't gone to the synagogue, or I really didn't understand what this is about. But I was very interested in Judaism, and especially what happened to the Jews in the concentration camps. And there was one story I read about, I don't know, was it called a golem or something like that, and it was about like a fire monster. Like, this is completely like beyond UFOs, but in one of the concentration camps, there was 4 or 5 rabbis, and they got together and they called on this horrific, so it would just destroy everything in its path. Not them, but it knew that they were being persecuted, and it went in there, and there was a story, and I don't know if it was the truth or not, but this one concentration camp or this one area, all the Germans and everything, all their stuff was completely just burned to the ground, like instantly, and they left. They leave. Did you ever hear anything like that? It was like a
I
fire
heard a lot of stories like
monster.
that, but not this particular one that you're talking about. I can't comment on
But
because
have
I
you
wouldn't
heard of
want
that
to.
thing?
Pardon me?
Have you heard of that? Like those rabbis having
Yeah.
that kind of power to call on,
Yes,
like in a
I've read about
situation
them.
like that?
I've read about them, and a lot of that is if you read about. If you read a lot of the ancient stories about miracles and about things that took
You mean
place,
like parting the Red Sea?
yeah,
and all
when the
that?
rabbis
Okay.
would get together and pray, and certain rabbis that were, extra anointed, if you will, and so you read a lot about that. And I believe, can you imagine how spiritual it was in the camps? Think about that, what was going on, So those kinds of stories, we don't know, we don't have any proof one way or another. We don't know if they're to edify us or to try to strengthen us, with what we went through or something. We don't know. But the fact of the matter is I believe in those things.
Yeah, me too.
I believe in the spiritual power. I believe strongly, and I've seen things. I've prayed for a lot of people in Brazil, in third world countries, where there's been manifestations.
Well, sometimes the statues are crying of the Mary, and then all of a sudden they see like pictures of Jesus, or in the clouds. I mean, you can really see it perfectly. A lot of times.
Yeah, there's a lot of spiritual, things that take place that I personally believe in. But again, I do not impose it on anyone, but I believe it myself.
That's cool.
And that helps me have faith when I pray for someone, when I lay hands on someone, when I, do something, when I'm asked to move forward in that direction.
The laying of the hands, is that for a specific physical problem, or how would you do that, and what would you do?
Typically, it would be for a physical problem, or for a person that's depressed, or for a person that is dealing with anger, depression.
Does it relieve them?
Yeah.
Does it help?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen it help.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I'm,
No, if you're
but
high
I'm
enough
saying,
level, you have
yeah,
very powerful energy.
yeah.
You do.
So I've seen it happen, and in third world countries like Brazil, I've seen many things. I went to India, I saw many things.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, and I had attack. I have a video. I can't find it. Video that's dating me, but it was in 1997, and a man was trying to hit me.
Really?
His veins were popping out.
Oh my goodness.
And there were pastors surrounding me, and the pastors stood back, and he couldn't hit me. And somewhere in my stuff, I have that video.
Like the fist just stopped?
He was going like this. Ah!
Oh, he couldn't even push.
He couldn't push, and it was air.
He was really angry at you, huh? Wow.
So I've seen some
That's
things.
amazing.
That's why I believe in the spiritual power.
Well, so have I.
Yeah. So we all call it different, how we look at it, but when I look at a group, I look at them spiritually. I look at them, but I don't impose anything. Well, I have my beliefs. You have your beliefs. Our viewers have their beliefs, and we respect it all.
Well, we need you now. This time in LA, it's even I was shocked I didn't go there. I don't even go there, but just seeing those pictures
Oh my gosh.
of Pacific Palisades, or I mean, it just burned to the ground, right to the water. I was like, how can it jump Pacific Coast Highway? Anyway.
Yeah, that was that wind. And Altadena,
I know.
it's just awful. The people that are left,
Well, we got to help them.
Yeah.
We just don't get into the negative or the depressive
Right.
thing. Just let's move ahead
Right.
and fix these problems and help people
absolutely.
get through it.
But I'm very excited about that, and I don't know whether it's okay now to just invite, if that's okay. I'd like to invite whomever is listening. Maybe you're in the area, in the Arcadia area, or even Fullerton, I think, Southern California. We're starting this. We're excited about this. Dr. Churchill is amazing, as most of you know that have been listening to him. And I'm going to make myself available to have group sessions there at the office. He's got two beautiful offices, and make myself available so that we can talk, so that we can move ahead in life. We can talk about, your progress in life and where you're going, your purpose in life, all of that. And I look forward to it. And I do have my podcast, if that's okay.
Sure.
Dr. Churchill, my podcast is Soul Synergy, Soul Synergy Network, and .com, and you can go on that and get information on that as well.
Well, all I can say is that I want to leave the viewers with this, and when one door closes, another one opens.
Yes.
That's so simple, it's almost childish, but that is the key to everything. And even though the houses are burned down, it's horrific, everything, there will be other chances to, it's not like a death sentence. I guess
Right.
that's what we're trying to see.
Right.
Right now, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking that, and I couldn't even fathom what you're going through. I think it's horrific, but there will be opportunities to get out of it. And it may bring people back to more of a spiritually centered basis too. It may, if it was me, I wouldn't know where else to go.
Right.
And even when I was partying and drinking in a hedonistic lifestyle, I knew if I got low enough, like if I was depressed
You knew
enough,
where to go.
I would it wasn't like praying to the universe or God. I'd just be like, okay, what do I got to do now? And this feeling would come over like, oh man, what do I do? There's nowhere to go. There's no wiggle room here. Okay, I guess something's going to help me. I don't know what it was. It was the universe or something.
Yeah.
And it worked. It was always like, the next day I'd get this thing would come in, or this job would happen, or I get another girlfriend, whatever it was. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
And things would change.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
But I didn't have the situation that these people are having.
Right, it's tough.
I've been very blessed in my life. But we're here to help them, though, for sure. And your
absolutely.
counseling and your words of wisdom and your dual
Thank
inner
you.
faith and your being a bridge and a gap. I'm sure you can work with anybody that comes through that door.
I really feel I can.
All right,
and
cool.
I don't say that braggadociously.
No, I
but
don't think so.
I really feel I can with my heart,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful having you on the show today.
Likewise. Thank
you
you,
for
Dr.
coming.
Churchill.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Good. Okay. Thanks.